Hello. I'm so happy you're here. I wonder what stars were wished upon so that we might find each other. These were the sorcerer Magellan Piranesi's first words to his adoptive daughter Theodora. A prodigy of particular import for today, as we will be reading not from an academic nor even published text, but an excerpt from some of the first notes penned and preserved by the now famed Renaissance sorceress Theodora Piranesi. Extraordinarily gifted from an early age, Theodora was worth her weight in sulfur, silver, and salt combined, and for this price she was purchased from her family by the Piranesi. Although her birth parents would not live long enough to spend these great riches, Theodora would spend the rest of her childhood in the care of these merchants, and with the renowned polymath Magellan Piranesi. It would be Magellan who would teach her the import of introspection, and of the inspection of history. It was for the former that he encouraged her to journal her thoughts and experiences, and for the latter he bid her begin such writings with the death of the author, a chapter concerning herself, so that she might be better understood by those that will surely come to remember her. Despite all of the complex insights she found and hid away within this diary, we will not be reading the words of Theodora herself, but instead a transcription, from her memory and by her hand, of her adoptive father's introduction to the worlds of magic. A monologue of a master synthesizing truths for a genius. Explained are concepts which Theodora had implicitly known but lacked all language to articulate. But any who come to comprehend these contents may grasp the font of magic, and grapple with the philosophies therein, revealing the unseen path where fate is led rather than followed. Here begins the words of Magellan Piranesi, patriarch of his line, inventor of the highest caliber, de facto ruler of Renaissance, and a sorcerer in utmost conversation with the stars. Page 1. The Man at the Docks. What separates man from magi is belief in oneself. Each of us can feel it, something within them that makes us more. Not a single feeling, it is as unique as ourselves, but no matter what it is, for the individual, its perception guides us and sets us apart. But you, my dear daughter, are different. Set apart at birth, not by feeling nor perception, but for some reason by the stars themselves. From a great distance I watched as they convened above your head, and sailed to find what it was they watched. And like the stars themselves, you are chaos, granted power blind, but it has been my great pleasure to find meaning in their machinations. My life's work has been to illuminate their dark, learn to predict their stubborn temperaments and impulsive moods. The unthinkable things that follow you, unconsciously and impossibly, are things that you do, but to command omnipotence one must possess omniscience, and I intend to give you control. To tame it, you must believe the impossible, know yourself to be the center of the universe, feel their movements, fascinate fate, and keep them on their toes. You've been so alone, even before I took you away. That is why I left my towers to greet you personally, and grant structure to your works. With you I will share all that I have and all that I know, for you have spent your young life scared of this world and of your thoughts. But I will teach you about these things, and once brought screaming into the light, it will be they who are afraid. Smile, my child, for the path we tread is not safe, but wondrous. Theodora spent the next 3 days sick, becoming accustomed to life at sea, for she had never been aboard a boat. But Magellan knew the truth of her illness. He had intervened. He had diverted the course of her life completely, and though unconsciously, Theodora was so attuned to destiny that this shift in her future made all her worldly senses spin. Day 4. The Introduction. Magellan called the girl into his study for a lesson. She could not yet read, but she found it preposterous to carry so many books out upon the open ocean. It was clear Magellan was poor at conversation, but once he began his lecture he lit up, and all his self-imposed barriers of communication ceased to be. Power surrounds everything, hidden everywhere. It is so visible that it can scarcely be seen. It comes from the ground and the water. It is in the air itself and all the lights of day and night. Their shapes and colors are land and sea, sky and sun, moon and stars. These 6 heavenly spheres comprise our orrery, and yet it is populated by innumerable worlds. For within and around each of our souls there are spaces, physical, mental, and spiritual. The manipulation of these aspects are our greatest works, the disciplines of Archana, Incarna, and Machina. For as the worlds are gods within themselves, we are gods of our inner worlds. It is then the goal of all mankind to excise our meager divinity, to project our philosophy, our determination, our intellect into reality. Ideals made manifest by the labors, magic, might, and method, and the spells, feats, and crafts which they produce. These are the only paths to power, and in the perfection of these pursuits we find perfection in ourselves. The arcane, exalted labor of the Magi, it is tied to one's nativity and the strength of their soul, requiring obtusely complex yet structured thought along with emotion, genuine and precisely measured. What the Methodists call laws of physics arise merely from the interplay betwixt celestial wills. Ultimately, it is the thoughts and feelings of the 6 spheres that sway true reality, forming these laws as their energies conjoin or contend. Though man possesses no magic inherent to himself, he does possess want and will and thought the same. And should a man learn to think not as his mortal self, but in the likeness of the spheres, he too can shape the world and make impossible things mundane. Magic is philosophy, and the study of spellcraft is the study of thought. Thus, understanding of celestial philosophy is the singular limit to arcane potential. Greater internalization of these notions allows one to better mimic higher wills, whilst fervor enhances power raw. Intimate and internal, to cast a spell one must shape and color thought in ways particular to the caster. For reality to bend, one must hold a whim as sharp as glass, and conform to celestial ideals so alien and intricate it is akin to memorizing every brushstroke of a painting in order, whilst feeling in time the passions of the color red, and sadness in the shades of blue. The only constraint upon the possibilities expressed by the arcane are the celestials themselves. Though beings of infinity, they can be predictable, finite in imagination, thinking only certain thoughts in certain patterns. And since their volition alone holds sway over the cosmos, their stubbornness inherently restricts the versatility of magic. Magi, those like us, have contended with this barrier since the age begun, and in truth it may never be surpassed. But in lifetimes spent circumnavigating this obstacle, new doctrines have been forged. Adopting and blending beliefs from multiple spheres, these mindsets, irrational and contradictory as they may seem, create novel affectations. And while total adherence to given ideals often garner greater insight and potence, the most outstanding mystics all contemplate these incongruous ideologies for the opportunities that they present. There are no last words, not for mages. Words of a witch hunter. age benevolent. Impossible to hold within one's mind, words of power must be used to keep thought stable, and spells within a Magi's control. Focusing upon each consonant, these words are of such great import that the intensity of a spell can often be surmised simply by the number of syllables spoken, and yet they seem inconsequential, as the language of magic holds no syntax and diverges between every tradition. Instead, the etymology of such words are molded around preference and function, their tone chosen to incite the moods required of the caster. While emotional regulation can come simply from ideology, more complex spells demand more complex mental constructs. To help color thoughts and shape will, meaning is given to many things. Movements of the body are incorporated to help orient the mind, from the expected subtle movements of the fingers to dance and martial arts. Experiences made memory hold narrative weight, and thus sway over the soul. So seamsters are often heard humming layered tunes, ciphers of rhyme and sentimentality, melodies to condense the gravitas of their words, without revealing intent. But while nothing is made clear, nothing is kept, for our order loves riddles and clues. The arcane demands an inquiring mind, and to discern the promising from the hopeless, we encode our secrets in culture. Magic can be found in motion and music, is concealed within myths and veiled by theatrical plays. Everything in our world has become a test to see who questions, who pays attention to that which surrounds, for only those capable of making such disparate connections, of finding their meaning, absorbing their notion, are capable of understanding celestial forces and drawing them near. Once discovered, the difficulty and danger posed by magic's undertaking comes with its habitual nature. When channeling the wants and emotions of beings far beyond yourself, they take residence in the heart and mind. Vessels unfit for thoughts so profound are ruined. But even in the gifted few, spells can ingrain themselves in the soul, like a flash of light, burned into your vision, blinding you from what should be plainly seen. If allowed to progress unchecked, a Magi's psychology will be inevitably and ineffably influenced by the discipline they practice, altering their personality and precluding them from all other paths. When taken to its truest extremes, the use of magic has not only mental but physical repercussions. Like rivers carving through stone to welcome larger streams, the channeling of mana exerts a force on the caster's body, over time contorting their morphology to better suit its needs. In the end, all such maladaptions are terminal, the body no longer able to support itself. But the disease is often extended for decades beyond this point, as Magi forestall death using the very magic that twists their bodies into fatal form. Thus, incredible care must be taken to compartmentalize your training, or you risk losing your personhood to the pull of superior will. To prevent this, many, especially those in Almsen, adorn a mask when enacting their craft, a persona similar yet kept wisely separate from the self. The greatest practitioners use all the techniques that I have mentioned, the ritual enhancing their notion. As actors, philosophers, and mathematicians in equal order, only by mastering subtle control over the self can you attain the greatest efficiency and efficacy of the arcane. At this point, the master took a moment to drink his coffee, Magellan humbly admitting he was foremost a scholar of the arcane, that as a sorcerer these were the realities which came naturally to him, and thus influenced his studies and perspectives on the other two arts. Apologizing, he explained that his lecture on might and method would be rooted in his experiences as a magi, but claimed the three labors are indeed one, separated merely in how they are manipulated, saying to his apprentice in the arts arcane that however unmatched in spontaneity and flexibility, magic does have its peers in power. Might focuses the same font of effort as the arcane, but while spells affect the world externally and manifest at the speed of thought, an incarnate must crystallize will within themselves over years. While the changes of spells are fleeting, these supernatural feats of form hold far greater permanence. Reckless magi welcome within themselves the forces of celestial want, alien and immense. These exceed human limitations, contorting the body rapidly and with disastrous consequence, breaking them and molding them into shapes which cannot survive beyond their will. But we possess want and will our own, and with time this impetus too can be harnessed, shaping our bodies to surpass limitation. Though the threads which bind and pervade the orrery are tremendous, they are detached. So far from their source, even the voices of creation fade into whisper. And though nothing compared to heavenly want, we are present, our wills so intimately near that the strongest among them might overpower the distant gods. Unlike in spellcraft, these mortal ideas must be put to action to receive effect. But as determination marries dedication, a faith in the self develops. As vessels of our belief, a philosophy forms, centered upon our essence, channeled into our body and soul. Through hard and constant work, the conception of the self is tested, and one's faculties expand. In proving ourselves capable, we grow capable of more, these adaptations granting higher structures to the flesh. Allowed to arise organically over time, they do not tear through the body, nor alter the mind, but in perfect harmony with one's nature, simply make us more. Far harder to build than maintain, few set down this path, but each step grows easier, as form begins to perpetuate spirit. In time they reach eudaimonia, their mere existence focusing the soul as magi's channel celestial will. Now set apart from all things beyond their skin, they grow resistant to the push and pull of foreign might, and sway of foreign philosophy. Their presence reinforces the reality within themselves, bolstering the order about them. In this way, as identity surpasses causality, men grow immutable, impervious to possession or intrusion. Forces once indomitable struggle to bend such legends. Sheltered by whim and work, spells fail to curse them, and they may stand in fire without fear of burning. So powerful are the forces which bind their figure, so perfected in shape that steel shall break upon them, as if water upon a stone. Such feats of resilience are clearly supernatural, and are to the incarnate what spells are to magi, yet represent only a fraction of the gifts allotted to heroes of might. For should belief be internalized and further fostered, it will be made true, and impossible things be done. As the body excels, it grows capable of anything. Absurd displays of strength and endurance, allowing men to defeat 20 times their number. Unerring senses altered by their perception and alerting them to the smallest detail or faintest whisper of ambush. Agility and coordination that force the world to slow before them as they fade into a blur, and presence so overwhelming that they can charm nations or intimidate dragons themselves. However, just as no magi can possess each in the enormity of spells, no incarnate can possess all gifts in their greatest measure, their mastery over favored disciplines far outshining all others. But when forged properly, these feats become inalienable and immutable, Channeled through figure rather than focus, incarnates remain hard as iron whether in battle or fast asleep, equally invincible in the face of any foe. But with supremacy in reach, there will always be those who grasp at power unearned. As one's might ultimately comes from their mind and the contents of their body, it can be enhanced by influencing these variables. Tonics, potions, and drugs can alter the mind and body in this way, and poisons quite the opposite. Although the effects are quite temporary, they are by no means negligible. For how much easier it is to master fear when incapable of feeling pain. Such substances can rapidly grant incredible capabilities, as if earnestly won, but similarly drain the individual, straining them beyond their capacity and leaving them weaker than when they began. A convenience that alchemists have long since used to dismiss the inherent danger of their craft, and conceal the need for the magnum opus. But that is a story for another time. All that I have stated are the extremes, the far corners of what we know can be done. And while some put in such effort that they may stand alone against the world and the wills which contort it, all men, even incarnate, can be splintered under tremendous and persistent force. In fact, I find might's most phenomenal feature to be its most subtle. That in truth we all participate to some degree in its labor, and all benefit from it in elusive ways. Throughout a life we train slowly and unconsciously, through constant action, repetition, and specialization. Our conduct built upon necessity in conversation with our environment, each culture reflecting what it endures, traditions breeding and evolving. Unique practices of might shape entire peoples, the races of man, and the traits which they present. Through trial and hardship we are distilled, and all manner of man emerge. And while individual toil can make one man reborn, our lands are anvils, and each generation another strike of the steel. This is what gave the Scouring the ice in their veins, the Ereshi their spirit to march under the sun, the Copanians their fangs, and the Omsonians their diversity, all molded to better fit their homes in incredible ways. For we all hold ourselves together through resolve, be it great or small. The method accepts reality as it is, rather than stepping from it or bending it to one's wishes. Discovered less than 4 centuries ago, the sciences are new magics, a mindset, one which I employ to things even beyond its own parameters, one seeking to exploit the ebb and flow of celestial forces towards determined goal. Its most crucial juxtaposition from the arcane comes from the concept of the observer and the modus absentia, how the world operates free from observers, and the progression of a state free from external philosophy. Where both are defined by outcome, the arcane is dependent not on initial conditions, but rather presence of thought. A magi, the observer, by their mere existence changes the outcome of the observed. Magic is perhaps the most personal undertaking possible, as the soul determines our affinity toward philosophy. An experience becomes so entwined with the arcane that its action becomes inseparable from its effect. One may know all the motions and recite all the words without flaw, but lacking that spiritual connection, spells will always fail. However, the works of the Methodists require no feeling. Rigidly impersonal, if steps are performed in precisely the correct way, it matters not who or what performs them. The effect will always be the same. Where a firebolt is unique to the caster, a firearm cares not how the trigger is pulled, only for what comes after. This spanning divide sets the great labors in diametric opposition, but they are merely opposite sides of a single coin, powered through the same sources, distinguished only by the personal and the reproducible. Built upon proofs, beautiful and irrefutable, the method can be discovered through ontological arguments simple as the words of children. That no action can exist without cause, and that all that exists must be possible to make. Recognizing that spells exist and arise from arcane thoughts, we must conclude that the mind is a physical construct capable of mystic function. Thus, physical constructs capable of mystic function are real and reproducible. Posing the question, do celestials care solely for constructs with souls? This line of reasoning opened the door to thinking machines, meticulously engineered to replicate the inner workings of a mind. The first were simple objects, potions and enchanted items, their use predating their classification as methodological works, as crafts and concoction were meant to follow and enhance the flow of thought. But as knowledge grew and we learned to keep the work we'd done, survival became expected. With hands freed from farming, our devices increased in complexity, and we began to find new ways for them to function, without need of human channeling. Now made from switches and gears, they run on only the celestial forces that persist in the air, which Methodists have named physics. They prompt the spheres to produce spells, but the plasticity of thought cannot be easily matched, and with components fit for a single motion, none are so flexible as the human mind. However, as rigid engines, they cannot be dissuaded, nor lose focus, and what is lost in versatility is gained in the strength and certainty of steel. Methodists then need only discover how to create these constructs, what motions summon their want, and what shapes and colors best optimize for function. Far more limited in what they can perform, and far less efficient in channeling celestial will, they were at first wildly impractical, too colossal even to be drawn by cart. Yet today some might fit on your belt, but even still improvements must be made. To gain the power required to operate, thinking machines have become finely tuned, harnessing as much magical energy as possible, forming the first point of contention between Methodists and Magi. Drawing in and utilizing such forces interferes with the fields which surround them. Impetus summoned in the minds of Magi is ripped from their grasp and thrust into these contraptions, often causing spells to fail. Though this disruption angers the Magi, it too frustrates Methodists, as the flood of energy called forth by the sorcerer can demolish the device from within. Built upon the standards of our world, extreme alterations to the natural order can break the sensitive inner workings of a thinking machine. Within a storm battery, fire is burned, and water angered to produce electricity. But through evocation, the coefficients of combustion can be increased, and fires made more intense. This causing the pressure to rise until vessel fails. To prevent such destruction, Methodists must build tolerances into their works to withstand these changes in physics. In the past 40 years, the most popular of such defenses has become the Antikythera machine, works of arbitrary complexity and incredible resistance designed to safely and wastefully dissipate excess or abnormal energies. Despite the many unique forms magic takes, nearly all can be met and thwarted by such devices. Acting as a new form of abjuration, they are tuned to destroy the structure of given spells, and redirect their energies, weakening magic. But of course, nothing is indestructible, and should the craft be made too weak, or wizard prove too strong, even these bulwarks may bend. Thus, an arms race has begun, as the two scholarly orders attempt to outthink the other, finding new ways to subvert or subdue their adversary. Many philosophers who watch these gadgets rip magic from their fingertips see it as an attack on the art itself, and are frenzied by the method's unruly spread and easy adoption. Were it not for the Pontiff and Praetor, for his wars of expansion and investment into the industrialization of logistics and war, I think Methodism would never have been allowed to progress to its current state, thwarted by old scions and druids scared of its potential. But mad folk, polymaths such as myself, few as we are, see what is possible should these labors unite. As methodology pushes against the arcane, focused on putting tools in hand, they, through mechanical aid, lay inhuman ability at the feet of common folk, and strive for dominion over the world. Every day more powerful weapons are invented, yet countered by more powerful spells, which again are surpassed by greater invention still. Polymaths pursue the understanding of both disciplines, and create meticulous mechanisms channeling not mere natural forces, but specific spells, amplifying their power under exact conditions. My observatory is one such creation, and one which you will no doubt spend countless hours of your life studying and operating. A sum greater than its parts, its capabilities are beyond what either Archana or Machina can produce in isolation. Perhaps it takes a sorcerer to see the future, but I choose to believe that this road will become plain to see, not just for those with magical thinking, but any with common sense. But that is more than enough for today, Theodora. I know you are weary, and we have so much time together. With that, I shall bid you good night, my dear, and look forward to seeing you in the morning.